In his 2009 article titled "Humble and Hopeful, Welcoming First-Generation Poor and Working Class," Dr. Kenneth Oldfield, who was a first-generation college student, recalled a conversation with his undergraduate professor. The professor told him, quote, "The primary purpose of an undergraduate degree is to teach you more ways to enjoy life." The professor went on to say that studying literature, politics, science, art, and theater and philosophy should prepare you for a richer existence, not employment. Go to a trade school if you only want job skills. Initially, I agreed with this statement, but later revisited that quote and realized that students can have both. In the right programs, students can develop job skills and take classes that enrich their intellect, giving them the best of both educational perspectives. Now, there are people who believe or subscribe to the thought that higher education refers only to a 4-year degree. I like to think that higher education is any education beyond high school. Now, I'm talking about this because graduation is right around the corner. And there is someone out there who is wondering if they should go to college or just get a job. There's also someone out there telling some young people that going to college is too expensive and not worth the trouble. After more than 20 years of teaching in a 2- and 4-year institutions with a brief stint as a middle school teacher, I have taught students ranging from 11 to 72 years old. And what my time in education has taught me is that education is like my favorite firework, sparklers. Those handheld sparklers seem fairly safe, but they can ignite things into the unthinkable. So if you're thinking about the next phase of your life, consider your education. Education sparks growth in ways we need to survive and thrive. So first, let's talk about how education sparks an open mind. An open mind means you are receptive to new ideas, new perspectives, and new experiences. You will learn to become tolerant or even accepting of people, cultures, and lifestyles that are different from your own. Now, tolerance doesn't mean that you adopt or condone the differences, but it means that you won't mistreat someone because they're different. There have been studies on exposure to diversity that show that when individuals are exposed to people who are different from themselves, their tolerance for growth grows, and they learn to accept people who look, eat, or even worship differently. And learning to accept people gives you a soft skill that makes you marketable in the workplace. As you learn, you will become open to new beliefs, new values, and new behaviors. So what are beliefs? Beliefs are what we accept to be true. And where do we get these from? From our family, our friends, our inner circle. But as we read and engage with new people and have new experiences, we find ourselves accepting new information. And values are no different. Values are what we consider when making major decisions. For example, I value my family. So before I take a job on the other side of the world, I'm going to consider the impact it will have on my family. And being exposed to new ideas and information will influence your priorities and your values. Behaviors are what we do, how we react, how we treat others, and how we treat ourselves. You can be today years old and learn a more effective way of doing something. And maybe you will learn it on TikTok, or maybe you will learn it in the classroom from an instructor or a classmate. Next, higher education sparks critical thinking. My favorite character from The Wiz was the Scarecrow, as portrayed by Michael Jackson. The Scarecrow would pull bits of paper from his body containing quotes and words of wisdom. The Scarecrow wanted to get down from his perch and walk around in his garden, but the crows consistently told him that he could not get down. And once the Scarecrow pulled out a scrap of paper that read, "Do not accept any situation, question, argue, and explore." And these instructions are the basis for critical thinking. You will learn to question the source and the relevance of information when someone presents it, and question the motive of the person sharing it. You will learn to argue your position with evidence and support. More importantly, you will know how to listen to another person's argument and analyze it for validity and soundness before accepting it. You'll also learn how to explore other possibilities. This is especially important when making decisions. You will ask yourself, are there other possible causes to this? Or are these my only options? Now, can you learn critical thinking skills outside of the classroom on your own? Absolutely. However, developing critical thinking skills while adulting in real life can be harsher than learning them in the classroom. After all, life usually teaches you a lesson after you've failed the test. Finally, higher education sparks personal development. Communication skills are paramount to your success. Nothing teaches interpersonal skills like moving in social circles and subcultures in a classroom or on a campus. You will learn to engage with instructors and classmates in ways that will translate to workplace communication skills. And according to Forbes, interpersonal communication, public speaking, and collaboration skills are the soft skills that Fortune 500 companies are looking for in employees. Self-discovery is another major part of personal development. Various courses introduce you to new interests. Now, I know students don't like to take courses that are not relevant to their career goal, but those courses expose you to content that may spark an interest that you did not know you would enjoy. And the same is true for your strengths. Seeing students discover that they are good at something because they had to do it for class is actually motivating. You will learn goal setting and resilience. Now, I pair these two together because it's easy to set goals, but meeting the goals, often you will encounter difficulty or delay. You may even fail and have to start over. But resilience is your ability to bounce back and keep at it. A 16-week course or an 8-week course with weekly assignments will teach you resilience. You may not do well on the first assignment in the first week, but that growth mindset will kick in and you will tell yourself, I still have time to pull my grade up. I can still pass. I can still make it happen. I can't give up. And not quitting is just as important as developing the ability to assess and adapt. This is what keeps us alive and thriving. Any successful student will tell you they've learned ways to adjust to each professor. And this comes in handy in the workplace. You will learn to observe, assess your situation, think critically about your goals and the resources that you have, and figure out how to adapt for the best results. Now, there are those who will disagree with me about education. Some will say college is a scam and degrees are worthless. But the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning reported 8 million adult learners aged 25 and older in the U.S. last year. So if education is worthless, these 8 million people would not have enrolled in school after living and adulting without a degree. Now, some will say higher education costs are too expensive and saddle students with debt. And education is certainly expensive if you don't qualify for grants or scholarships. But earning a degree of some kind will increase your earning potential while a high school diploma will not. According to a report from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2022, the annual median salary for people with bachelor's degrees was $36,000 more than that of people with just a high school diploma. So in the long run, it may be expensive at the front end, but in the long run, an education pays off. Would you like to know what else is expensive? Poverty. Poverty is expensive for the duration. Poverty in the U.S. refers to the condition of individuals or households experiencing a lack of resources, income, and basic necessities. And children and adults living in poverty are at a higher risk of adverse health effects from obesity, smoking, substance abuse, and chronic stress. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more heartbreaking than teaching children who are affected by poverty. Children living in poverty are at a greater risk of poor physical, emotional, and behavioral health. Children living at or below the poverty line tend to live in impoverished neighborhoods where they are exposed to crime and violence, which then puts them at risk of engaging in such activity. The correlation between poverty and crime is clear. And the cycle of poverty often begins with little or no education, which leads to a lack of financial resources, which possibly and oftentimes leads to crime. And the cycle can continue for generations. So in education, a vocation, GED, associate, or bachelor's degree can be the difference between a family struggling in poverty and parents earning enough to meet the needs of their children. When parents earn a degree at any level, they set an example for their children, which, as research shows, can change the trajectory of a child's life. I've taught many students over the years who were the first in their families to go to college, earn a livable wage, and break the cycle of poverty. And it all started when they took some classes. Now, some people will still maintain that college won't help you find a job. But I maintain that it will help you find a job that pays more than minimum wage. How lucrative your career is depends on what you choose for your major and what opportunities you take advantage of. Vocational and trade schools are excellent options, and you can take classes for enrichment. So if you want to be a plumber or an electrician or a hairstylist, take some marketing or accounting classes to prepare you to start and grow your own business. I want to tell you a story about a student that I've taught and advised for the past 2 years. She's a non-traditional student, and she was 45 when she completed her GED, just 2 years ago. She was the first in her family to earn a high school diploma or its equivalent. And I mean the first, not her mom, not her grandmother, and not her great-grand. And that learning experience sparked something in her. And she worked hard, and she decided that she would pursue her associate's degree. Again, the first in her family to pursue any kind of education. She was unsure of herself, and she wasn't fully convinced that she was capable or even worthy. After all, she had been incarcerated and didn't know anyone who had benefited from a formal education. But she stayed the course. She learned how to study and how to take notes. She learned how to power through and adapt when her classes got hard. And I'm proud to say that student is graduating this May with her associate's degree. And she's discovered that she wants to help other people like her. And in the fall, she'll begin her bachelor's. And she wants to start a business. Education is the great agent of change. It can change a person's beliefs, values, and behaviors. It expands a person's potential, their capabilities, their capacity for learning and adapting. And whether the education is vocational or academic, it can change a person's life trajectory and that of their children. So for those of you who are unsure about the next chapter in your life, whether you are graduating from high school in May or haven't been to school in 20 years, or incarcerated, hoping to turn over a new leaf when released, take a class, light that sparkler, and see what ignites. Thank you.